Hello, we're here today with the lovely Lena Rodriguez from Tarot Down Under. Here, Lena is, of course, during COVID times, we can't meet. She's in Sydney, I'm here in Adelaide, and we have just watched these presidential debates. Already a few texts between the two of us may mean that we don't necessarily agree on everything, which is always going to be interesting between two
I know,
radical
and I just,
progressives like us. Yeah, that was bad.
well, I think I have a real problem because I'm looking at it through the Australian eyes, right? So I think you should lead off with
Oh,
how
you
it struck
do?
you as an American.
Well, one thing that I would say, just and I've read all this. I don't necessarily, know this just because I'm an American. I was just reading how it is really significant that that the incumbent has to do better. So it's a referendum on the incumbent. He's got a history of things to critique, and I think Wallace did one heck of a job. I am shocked.
Oh, he was great. He was the highlight.
He was the highlight of the show. Like, I couldn't, I really, really quite shocked. He was very, Trump was really aggressive. He told him to back off a bunch of times. There were several asides between he and Biden where he's like, yeah, you're right. I can't figure out what the president's saying either. It was remarkable. I mean, if I weren't watching it, I would have thought that bias was, he was some biased liberal. That's like how I'm sure many conservatives would view him. But it's just, Trump to me didn't look good. He was sweaty. He was very make-upped. Biden just looked old. He didn't look ridiculous. Now, we could always argue that this is typically the case, but I think that he looked especially bad. And, when he's prevented from constantly interrupting, as Wallace did, when Biden could explain and speak, I thought he came off fairly well.
Yeah, but he didn't cope with the interruptions well, which it's hard for anyone when someone talks over you.
Yeah, true. But I don't know if that made him look worse. I think that it didn't make Trump look good that he was constantly interrupting. At, maybe it was even a neutral. But I felt really pretty glad to see Biden, not fall over. Right? Okay.
Yeah, relief.
Yeah, go
It
ahead.
was a relief. But I don't think it was a game changer.
I don't.
If I was on the fence and I was looking forward to this debate to try and, do this, I think they stayed in their entrenched camps, and I don't think Trump really landed punches on Biden, but Biden didn't land any on Trump either. So to me, it was a meh,
Well,
I was disappointed.
Keep in mind that, there's nobody, I mean, they're not going to be anybody who really does that well right now in the Dem camp. It's just, they don't have they don't have the speakers like Obama that they did before. Biden isn't able to land those same blows, but he did look competent. He didn't look doddering. He didn't lose his place. There were no major mistakes, I thought.
He didn't screw up, right? I'll give him that.
Yeah.
He didn't screw up.
He didn't totally blow it. And I think it is upon the incumbent. If it's a draw, then the incumbent will lose because he had a lot of records. Like I thought that his constant interrupting, Wallace trying to say stuff was a good thing. Let me just looking at my notes. Joe did a couple of things. Yeah, just keep yapping. He doesn't know how to stop. Right? I mean, he did a couple of decent jabs. They weren't flawless. But that's what we're going to see, right? When we look at CNN, they're going to have a couple of Wallace getting interrupted. I'm sure Fox News won't have that, but then again, he is from Fox News, so maybe. What struck me, Wallace kept trying to get a specific question, and he couldn't get Trump to be specific. Now, obviously, I'm seeing this through the progressive, liberal windows, eyes that I have, right? But even Wallace got angry at him and told him to stop. Trump's facial expressions were really kind of perturbed. Biden did a few of these, which I just wish he would. And he says, look, folks, he has a couple of idioms that he uses constantly, which aren't.
Here's the deal as well.
Yeah, here's the deal.
You can use that once, but not 18 times. Yeah.
But it wasn't horrific. I mean, I think if if Biden didn't do better, then he, at the very least, I think it was a draw. Because Trump did not.
Yeah, that's how I feel. It was a draw.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone wiped the floor with anybody.
yeah,
There was not a standout winner, and for me, that's a problem.
yeah. And I
Mm.
mean, of course, this was one blow that Joe did get in. Wasn't that productive? You know, and he's saying this to Wallace, and they're almost kind of joshing back and forth about, and I think there is some value to that. I mean, here is Wallace, who's a conservative guy, who is actually laughing with Biden, who is sort of working with him. And here is Trump, who's
Yeah.
working even against the conservatives. There is something to, you know, unifying the country, if that's even possible. What's like one thing that let's see. He got a. I think Biden got a great response in terms of the police. I think that was
In
actually
terms of,
the police department. I think that was
oh
the
yeah,
best response, is to go, no,
yeah, I
no
think he
police
handled that well. Yes.
really well. He talked about bringing
Yeah.
it together and bringing. That was the answer. That's the answer that Trump should have been giving us. He did super, super well. Now, you were right about him bringing up Hunter's son. Okay,
Yeah.
you just tell us, tell the audience. I mean, what you said.
Oh yeah. Oh, as soon as he mentioned Hunter Biden being unqualified for earning hundreds of millions of dollars, Biden missed the biggest chance in the world to say, you made your daughter a senior advisor to government when she works in fashion.
Right.
That would have actually changed the tone of the debate, because everything else would have been put into context if he just landed that one, because Trump, once Ivanka's name would have mentioned, would have been thrown. But it's also true, and it's really simple, and it was a one-stop shop, and he missed it.
Yeah, he did. And that was another one of the Democrats being too decent to talk about your kids. Well, you know, why is it always about Hunter? Why do we not, Hunter is not in government. You know, his daughter and son-in-law is. You know, the other thing that I think Biden did well, he did really well on race. And when he talked about the race relations, he didn't say stuff that's so radical that, oh, I'm going to lose the right. He said, like, look, no, I don't want to defund the police. I want to bring everybody to the table and recreate that. I thought that was actually an excellent answer. You know,
and also on healthcare, I think he managed to get across they wouldn't take away private healthcare, and that's important too.
Right.
You know,
right.
So he got those. But Trump, I hate to say it, performed better than I thought.
Yes.
You know, he actually produced some sort of consistency that we haven't seen over the last 4 years. You know, he was finishing sentences and, you know, stuff.
That's true.
But you have to describe it at the end of the day as inconclusive. I think you arrived in your particular camp and you left in that camp.
For the most part. Now, I mean, I don't think, I mean, if 200,000 dead don't convince a conservative, nothing is going to convince a conservative. I mean,
Well, the problem is, this is another thing I think he didn't get across. Exactly. 200,000 dead should speak for itself. It should be the beginning and the end of that conversation. But because the Conservatives have gone with this argument, only 6% of those have really died of COVID, what got buried in that is you are much more vulnerable if you have pre-existing conditions, and the majority of Americans have pre-existing conditions. So he should have got that one in too, to try and counter that, because no one's reacting to the 200,000, because if you listen to Conservative speakers, there aren't 200,000 dead. They've miraculously whisked them away. So even such a massive factor gets wiped out, and he wasn't ready for that. I blame his preparers for that. He should have been prepared to hammer home 200,000 dead is in fact 200,000 dead.
Well, I don't think
that.
I don't think conservatives are going to change anyway. The only people we're going for is that small slice of centrists. Nothing Trump does will affect conservatives in any way. It's this very small slice of people who have not decided, which I'm going to say is, I don't know if it could be more than 5%. You know, people who are going to vote against Trump are going to vote against Trump. That's,
5 to 10, probably. Yeah.
oh, really? You think it's that big? In any case, that was the small slice he was going for. It really is a question of, yeah, we're not centrists, so I don't necessarily know what appeals to them so much. I'm not a centrist.
Yeah. And I think with the environmental stuff, Biden wasn't too bad, but the criticism always is, oh, it costs a fortune. Trump came back with, you know, figures he made up, but it's still nonetheless the conservative position that it costs too much to go green. Biden should have been prepared. Sorry, I've got an industrial thing going on in my left ear. Biden should have been prepared with the classic line, it costs more to ignore climate change than to repair it.
And that was a really good save, because you bring up the word environmentalist and everybody in centrist Republican land freaks out. And this was one time where he really did advocate for something that people on the left believe in. At the same time, he was...
Yeah, he did quite a good job, but he didn't counter the economic argument. And the economic argument is no country, not just the US, here or anywhere else, we cannot afford to keep going down this fossil fuel route. It's not a pie in the sky utopian option. It's absolutely essential. And he missed another opportunity to say, America got great in the first place because we were at the cutting edge of new technology and making things work in a new way. This is our chance for America to lead the world in this stuff, and we will be at the forefront of this new technology.
Right. Well, you know, here's the problem that you would be a really good president, and you would be a really
Thank
good
you so much.
You would be really, really good at it, and you're holding everybody to your high standards, which I'm afraid most of us just cannot meet. Certainly not an American politician. They're not going to be able to meet such standards. But I do really see your point. There were certainly places where he could have done better, and it really annoyed me when, you know, Biden did this.
Yes, there was a lot of huffing, defeated huffing.
Did you think it would interrupt you? Stop being the I roll kind of guy. That was not an effective. You know, you should have been much more dog. That was not effective. Can you hear me? Okay.
No, look, he was okay. He was okay, but okay. We needed more than okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're frozen. Are you back, Dave?
I am here. You froze a bit there too yourself. You're back.
Okay.
Okay. So sorry.
I'm back.
Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. We usually have decent internet here in Australia. Not sure what's going on today. But, you know, maybe, Lena, briefly, I'll just touch on some of the problems I had, like voting. Right. And
how amazing. Yeah, it's hideous. Yeah.
Just tell you the next step, and I don't want to waste a bit of time here, but I'll just tell you the next step is, having not been able to fax, having been given the wrong fax number, I eventually found an email that I could send this to for people who live abroad. Now, of course, having sent it, I'm like, uh-oh, I hope it's the right one. You know, I hope it's not some Russian. Well, I did get an email back completely unsigned.
Oh.
So now I'm like, okay, so can you guys tell me that you are really going to send this and you're really legit? You know, it's weird that somebody did not sign that, but I'm going to find out. Or just an update, and I will keep everybody updated. This is just, that I think was also a really good point about, I think this was where Biden did win. This, and when Trump was asked, will you accept the results of the election? He would not say yes. When he was asked, will you condemn white supremacy?
White supremacy.
Would not do that. And actually, I think that's where Biden got in. So, hey, just denounce them. That actually was a really good, you know, if they just framed that moment, Biden won. Now, obviously, we're not frame that moment on Fox News. But that was, there are a host of American people and people all over the world who got that. And they got that Trump will not denounce these people. Can you hear me?
Yes, and good on Chris Wallace for asking it so specifically.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm shocked.
yeah,
I did
I
not.
think he did a good job. Chris Wallace did a good job overall in a very difficult situation.
Extremely difficult situation. And, I'm pretty skeptical. I don't see why Fox News gets to be the one to ask the questions. They're not a news channel. And not to offend you, it's run by an Australian, Rupert Murdoch.
Oh, no, he took US citizenship so he could do it.
Oh, no kidding. So he is a citizen.
He's all yours now.
Okay. So, oh no, thanks a lot. Kick him over to my side. But in any case, think about this, just, why does Chris Wallace get to do it? I mean, it's not National Public Radio that gets to be asking these questions. They're an entertainment channel. But what I thought was very unique about him was nobody can really look at him and say he's from the biased lefty media. He was...
Well, exactly. They had to notionally have a distribution of moderators, and they chose the grown-up at Fox.
Yeah. So we have to work how that was chosen. But I think it couldn't have been better if it were a progressive, liberal, lefty, CNN, whatever.
No,
they would have. They could not have cut through better than Wallace, right?
Yeah. No, he was definitely the winner tonight.
Sorry.
Well, have we got any more to pour over? Because...
Well, maybe I'll just ask one or two questions. What did you think was Trump's best moment, for example?
Best for his people. I think it wasn't so much a moment as he kept it together by his standards pretty well for 90 minutes. I think that was his takeaway win.
Yeah. Right.
He didn't get really mumbly and stupid. So I think,
Sorry, Lena, can you repeat that? Can you hear me, Lena?
Together.
Sorry, Lena, you're breaking up.
I think he came up, presented his...
Lena? I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Better than I... Oh, sorry. Am I back? Testing?
Yeah, look, Lena.
Testing.
Look, Lena.
Yeah, I think we should bail because the quality of this is so bad. But just, I'll ask you one question to go out on too.
Sure.
So, as an American, how do you feel it would have gone down in the Midwest, for example, or any of the swing states?
Well, keep in mind I'm from California, so my America's that place where everybody's different. So I cannot say. I would say, Trump supporters are going to get out of him. They're going to believe whatever he says, no matter whether it's truth or not.
Yeah.
I do think that there are more and more people in the middle, in a sense, like, for example, suburban housewives are an important dynamic. For them, I would say it was a slight Biden win because he was cogent and because he seems like he will work together and end the gridlock. That seemed a positive to me. If I'm just imagining I'm a suburban, centrist woman living in the suburbs, and I'm hearing this and watching this, I would come away with, well, I hope this is not my bias, but what's Trump done for me? Number one. And I think Biden that's one thing he did really well. He said, look, and he kept looking at the camera and talking directly. Yeah,
he remembered to look at the camera, which is good.
I think that is a slight, I hope I'm not biased, but I think that's a slight benefit.
Yeah, and I think he handled the suburban issue well.
Yes.
In the sense, he said, look, the suburbs are functioning fine. They're under threat from this man, as opposed to, the fear mongering of Trump. I think he handled the suburban issue, quite well. Biden, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's it. It's not bad news, which is a good day.
Yeah. So, that's a relief. That's a relief. And I don't think Trump could, go out with his hands in the air, but it wasn't a race. It was it's a very American thing to talk over people in a public space. And at this end, it was interesting. The Australians and New Zealanders, after 10 minutes, were just going, why don't they shut up? You know,
Really?
like,
Wow, that's funny.
it was
Yeah.
interesting watching it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's sort of how it is. But kudos to Chris Wallace, I think.
Yeah,
You know.
he's probably the real winner of this. Well, Lena, thanks so much as always.
Absolutely. Now, what I want to say, guys,
Hmm.
to the audience before we go to, we are going to get our act together and make sure we have live stream for the election. Dave, we've got 4 weeks to get our dinosaur brains together and
Wow.
do that.
Wow.
So we'll be coming to you live for the election, which is much more fun, and it'll go over hours and hours, and we'll work out how to do that. We'll have to have people bringing us supplies.
Well, you know, I just even.
But hopefully you could come to Sydney for that. Wouldn't that be brilliant?
Yeah, actually, everybody should know, like, COVID is very much lowering in Australia. And just last week, I got the chance to go to Sydney and hang out with Lena. Good one, Lena. You're a little bit frozen. Put your hands together. I'm going to put my hands together for you.
Okay, hon. Well, the connection's failing again.
Yeah.
So I'll let you load this up. Viewers, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Bye for now.
Don't forget to check out Lena on Tarot Down Under. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.